A very good afternoon and welcome back to the proceedings of the last day, day 4 of the 2022 edition of Dhaka Media Summit. As you know, the conference is jointly organized by the Media Studies and Journalism Department, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, and International Association for Media and Communication Research, IAMC, Bangladesh. The central theme of the conference this year is Future of Journalism. Our associate partners are LSPR Communication and Business Institute, Jakarta, Indonesia, Sukhothai Thammathirat Open University, Thailand, Wali Songo State Islamic University, Indonesia, Miriam College, the Philippines, Khaja Moinuddin Chishti Language University, India, Pelita Harapan University, Indonesia, Media Action Nepal, Digital Transformation Program, Dhaka International Mobile Film Festival, and Axis MIL, three outreach programs of Media Studies and Journalism Department, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, and our media partner is Daily Shomoiralo. So we are almost towards the end of day 4. We have at this part of the proceedings, as I already mentioned, a roundtable discussion entitled In the Spotlight, Safety and Press Freedom in the Philippines. It's a roundtable discussion presented by our colleagues at Miriam College, the Philippines. And we have as discussants in this session, Ms. Lynda Catindig-Garcia, Ms. Therese Torres, and Ms. Janess and Ellao. Our moderator for this roundtable discussion is Ms. Mae Ann Chua, also from Miriam College, the Philippines. Before I hand over the session to the moderator, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce briefly our moderator for the session, Ms. Mae Ann Chua. Ms. Chua is an instructor and assistant chair at the Department of Communication of Miriam College. She teaches communication theories, research writing, and communication for development. She currently serves as the moderator of M Cinema, the film appreciation student organization of the department. She is a Google certified educator and is an online coach for the School of Arts, Sciences, and Education of the school. Respected moderator, good afternoon to you.
Hello and good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. And welcome to our roundtable discussion for In the Spotlight, Safety and Press Freedom in the Philippines. So we are colleagues and faculty of the Department of Communication at Miriam College. So to give you a brief overview of what will be discussed for this afternoon, it's divided into 3 parts. So the first part, it's entitled as Filipino Journalists, Quo Vadis, to be discussed by Ms. Janess Ellao. So under this topic, we revisit the conditions Filipino journalists are facing, particularly on journalist safety and how it impacts their ability to carry out their duty as truth tellers. The second topic, creating a haven for journalists, to be discussed by Ms. Torres. We look into the media community's response to the attacks, including the multi-stakeholder development of the world's first national plan of action to protect journalists, and the Digital Safe House, an online platform that links women journalists under attack to programs and services they need. Lastly, marching and writing onwards, to be discussed by Ms. Lynda Garcia. We talk about how the academe is preparing future media practitioners and the vibrant relationship that journalism educators and students must have with journalists on the ground. Education, while being guided by the curriculum, goes beyond academic lectures and course requirements. Crucial to a clearer understanding of their responsibilities are exposure to the journalist's work and experiences. So each presenter will be given 15 minutes, and then after that, we will proceed to the Q&A with the audience that we have here. So to start off, Ms. Janess, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mitch, and good afternoon to everyone. And thank you for joining us in this afternoon's parallel session on the Philippines. We hope to share lessons from this side of the world, which we can all bring to the global movement against disinformation. This afternoon, allow me to share a glimpse on why the Philippines is among the so-called freest press in the world, and yet considered as one of the world's most dangerous places for journalists. Next slide, please. The Philippines has a long history of the media being used as a tool for social transformation from the days of the Spanish rule. Both revolutionaries and reformists here have tapped the power of the media through community papers and novels in awakening the national consciousness towards liberty. The same happened during the US invasion, the Japanese occupation, and then the return of the US forces after the Second World War. In the Philippine history, the role of media became even more pronounced during the dark days of the martial law under former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Independent papers, Mosquito Press, and the underground papers became sources of truth for the people, as many dominant media were under the control of the Marcoses and their cronies. Now, with the democracy supposedly restored, attacks against the Philippine media and the journalists persist. Next slide, please. Year in and year out, we continue to be one of the world's most dangerous places for a journalist. But never since the Marcos dictatorship was toppled and had the Philippine media needed to struggle and assert its freedom and independence as it did in the last 5 years. We zoom in now how in the past 2 years, the Philippine media has been covering the pandemic, which revealed the poor working conditions of Filipino journalists who now serve as frontliners of truth. Media is now struggling with low advertising revenues, especially for newspapers who were forced to cut their circulation by more than half. There were also journalists who were arrested and charged for supposedly spreading false information when they reported the lack, if not the absence, of aid for poor communities. Meanwhile, government officials became harder to reach, with journalists who are critical of government are being kicked out of Viber rooms, and verification has also been even more difficult nowadays, especially with images and videos that are being provided to the media from government officials. Now we are also covering the elections. In May 2022, we will have our national elections, and the Philippines will be voting our next president for the next 6 years. And if we remember, in 2009, in 2009, the Ampatuan massacre happened, and that led to the killing of at least 32 journalists, and that remains as one of the single deadliest attack against journalists. Now we have journalists on the ground, and they are also experiencing varying forms of attacks. And for those who have been asking the right questions, sometimes they're also being called hard questions. They are being accused of being biased. Journals on the ground are also not being granted with interviews, with a forerunner in the presidential elections refusing to be interviewed or even attending debates being organized by the media. And now we have both of them. We are covering the elections, and we still have a raging pandemic, although lately we have a lower number of COVID cases, but it's not yet the end of the pandemic. And meanwhile, all year round, we have journalists and news media outfits being red tagged, where they are accused of being fronts or sympathizers of a revolutionary group here, just because they are, as I have said earlier, just because they are asking hard questions, or whenever they put context to their reports, or when they do fact checking. Red tagging, similar to the McCarthyism in the 1950s in the US, makes us journalists legitimate targets in the armed conflict here in the Philippines and put our lives in danger. Studies by the International Association of Women in Radio and Television in the Philippines have revealed that these attacks have impacts on the work of journalists and also their mental health, not just of journalists themselves, but also of their families. Next slide, please. Allow me to zoom in to some of the specific attacks that has been going on for the last 5 years. We have, of course, ABS-CBN was shut down. This is the country's biggest television network, and it continues to be closed as of this very moment. Its frequencies to air in her free channels were recently given to one of the country's richest tycoons and among those closest to the Dutertes. There are also cyber attacks against the alternative media and even those in the dominant media. And these have intensified, especially now that we are approaching the national elections. For the alternative media, we have traced a series of attacks that came from the government infrastructure, including IP addresses that were traced to the Philippine Army. There are also libel and cyber libel cases against journalists for fact-checking on the ground. We would also like to note that 20 of the 37 libel and cyber libel charges against journalists were filed during the pandemic. And cyber libel and libel charges here in the Philippines are considered criminal offenses, unlike in other parts of the world where this is considered as a civil action or a civil complaint. We also point to the fact that the guilty verdict against the Nobel Prize awardee Maria Ressa and former researcher Reynaldo Santos was handed during the pandemic as well. And there are still 7 tax-related cases against Rappler and Ressa. All of them, the media community says are politically motivated and are trumped up. Killings have also continued. In fact, in the past 5 years, 23 journalists have been killed, and more than a third of them were documented or happened during the past 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, next slide, please. Meanwhile, we women face the double burden. Apart from the attacks that I have earlier stipulated, we are also being attacked for being a woman. We have been subjected to sexual harassments, not just from colleagues, but also our news sources, including top police officers, elected officials, and even our very own President Duterte. Next slide, please. So women journalists here, they would ask, is this normal? And yet the media community and the academe, we continue to stand up against these forms of attacks and intimidation, and they are not taking this sitting down. My colleagues here, Ms. Therese and Ms. Lynda, will be discussing how the media community and the academe have responded to make sure that journalist welfare and protection from attacks are being upheld. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Janess, and good afternoon from Manila, everyone. Following the presentation by Ms. Janess on the challenges that journalists face in the Philippines, I will now be sharing an overview of the safety and protection mechanisms in the country that aim to help address the threats and attacks against the press. As Ms. Janess said, despite these attacks, Filipino journalists continue to stand their ground, and it helps that there have been many different efforts, particularly from media organizations and civil society, that sought to put in place safety and protection mechanisms for journalists. Among the challenges, however, include first, ensuring the sustainability of these efforts, given limited resources, which are often from grants. And second, strategizing for consistent monitoring, documentation, and coordination of the various safety mechanisms across the country. To help address these challenges, in 2018, the multi-stakeholder development of the Philippine Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists started. It was modeled after the United Nations Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists and the Issue of Impunity, which was launched in 2012 to provide a framework for UN member states to prepare their own national programs for protecting media practitioners and defending press freedom. The Philippine Plan of Action was developed under the Safeguarding Press Freedom in the Philippines project with support from the European Union, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, and UNESCO. And the project was implemented by the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication, or AIJC, and International Media Support, or IMS. The process behind the development of this Philippine Plan of Action was participatory, involving stakeholders from media, government, academia, and civil society. National and regional multi-stakeholder workshops were conducted across the country. Taking the lead together with AIJC and IMS were the rest of the members of the JSAG, or the Journalist Safety Advisory Group, namely the Center for Community Journalism and Development, the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, and the Philippine Press Institute. Here's a photo from the launch of the PPASJ back in November 2019. And now, AIJC, as the Secretariat of the Philippine Plan of Action, is now monitoring the safety initiatives being implemented by different groups and organizations, and how these have contributed to the implementation of the plan. In addition, the Secretariat is also working with the JSAG in identifying priority areas in the plan for implementation and finding anchor organizations that can help the country achieve the journalist safety targets laid out in this plan. 5 flagship areas are highlighted in the Philippine Plan of Action as follows: integrity and professionalism, conducive working conditions, safety and protection mechanisms, criminal justice system, and public information, journalism education, and research. Examples of completed or ongoing safety initiatives related to these flagship areas are updated ethical guidelines for journalists. Some examples are the ethical guide developed by the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines last year, and the updating of the ethical guidelines for journalists in covering the elections, which was developed by the Philippine Press Institute together with AIJC. There have also been safety training programs by different organizations, including NUJP and the International Association of Women in Radio and Television, among others. There have also been dialogues organized between media and state security forces. And then there is the Digital Safe House for Women Journalists. And I would like to share some information about this Digital Safe House as an example. The Digital Safe House project was spearheaded by IAWRT, the International Association of Women in Radio and Television, in partnership with IMS, or International Media Support. The beneficiary of this pilot project is the Philippine chapter of IAWRT, of which I am part of the board together with my fellow speakers, our president, IAWRT Philippines President, Ms. Lynda Garcia, and treasurer, Ms. Janess, Ellao. Launched in December 2021, the platform was created to help women journalists in the Philippines who are experiencing threats and attacks. The project was led by IAWRT International Communications Officer and journalist, Lady Ann Salem, and her team. A key feature of the Digital Safe House is the reporting mechanism, which Filipino women journalists may use to seek assistance for themselves or for their female colleagues. Another feature is the Portal of Information, which shows where women journalists can get help. The website consolidates different safety resources, including legal assistance, peer support and counseling, alert systems, and safety training sessions among others. Before this digital safe house was launched, IAWRT conducted research through a focus group discussion and a roundtable discussion with key stakeholders, including women journalists, their family members, the Secretariat of the Philippine Plan of Action, and organizations that agreed to be digital safe house partners. Their inputs during those discussions, in addition to previous research, were used to develop the digital safe house. And this year, here are the next steps of IAWRT Philippines for the digital safe house implementation. Hiring of full-time case officers to monitor the DSH 24/7, and of course, helping ensure the sustainability of the platform through partnership agreements and resource mobilization. As of now, we have funds to keep the platform online for 2 years, but the organization will find resources to sustain it. The Philippine chapter will also be in charge of monitoring and evaluation, and of course, the enhancement of the DSH as a safety mechanism based on the results of the evaluation. These are just a few examples of the safety mechanisms for journalists in the Philippines. And as we continue to implement, monitor, and evaluate them, we hope to have opportunities to share lessons learned and recommendations. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the open forum after the last presentation. Now to discuss the future of journalism education and best practices in teaching journalism, I am passing the microphone to Ms. Lynda Catindig-Garcia, Chairperson of the Miriam College Department of Communication.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Loud and clear, Ms. Lynda.
Thank you very much, Therese. Do you also see me very well? Is my reception fine? All right, thank you very much, Therese, for that presentation. And I would like to greet everyone here a pleasant afternoon from Manila, Philippines. At mabuhay po kayong lahat. Okay, so I'm tasked today to share my thoughts of experiences in the Philippines with regard marching and writing onwards best practices in teaching journalism in our country, in our school. Next slide, please. I will be covering 3 general themes here. Number 1, the future of journalism education in Asia Pacific, considering the Philippines is part of Asia and the Asia Pacific. Number 2, teaching the safety of women journalists, journalism. And number 3, our experience in Miriam College. All right. I would like to share with you this passage, which I gathered from one of the icons of communication in the Philippines, Dr. Braid, in 2021. She said that it is time to shift our attention to this continuing erosion of democracy. This is shown in the growing polarization of the public sphere and digitalization, which has further enabled the spread of disinformation. I think earlier, our first speaker was talking about disinformation, and globally, we are looking at disinformation, misinformation, and even malinformation. Next slide, please. Just recently, 2 freedom fighters and Nobel Peace laureates, our very own Maria Ressa and Dmitry Muratov of Russia, who urged media worldwide to join forces in fighting for facts. Again, fighting for facts instead of competing with each other. Next slide, please. According to Ressa, transform the hate and violence, the toxic sludge that's coursing through our information ecosystems, prioritized by American internet companies, then make more money by spreading that hate and triggering the worst in us We must begin by restoring facts. We need ecosystems that live and die by facts. We do this shifting social priorities to rebuild journalism for the 21st century, while regulating and outlawing the surveillance economics that profit from hate and lies. So what is the point here? The point here is, again, we would like to deal with facts. We need to uncover the facts. Next. Next, please. All right. Just recently, there was this AMI conference, Asian Media Information Communication Center Annual Conference, which talked all about the future of journalism in the world. And one of the key messages that was emphasized there is that journalism is in a state of crisis, and there is a need to rethink the future of journalism. Next slide, please. Also, in 2021, there was a global survey which covered 1,696 teachers from 49 countries. There were 239 respondents from 13 Asia-Pacific countries. The research presented 4 major roles of journalism. Number 1, disseminator provides entertainment, getting news that sell quickly before public is treated as consumers rather than citizens. Number 2, investigator provides in-depth background information that enables people to make decisions and monitor and scrutinize government. For third and fourth, mobilizer and observer. Next slide, please. These global trends clearly indicate a preference for and recognition of the importance of the investigator role and the diminishing importance of the disseminator role. There was preference for verification, analytical, social, and language skills. Next slide, please. To share with you what we do in Miriam College, anyway, let me introduce our school. Our school is almost 100 years of age, and one of our programs that we offer, one of the programs that we offer in this school is communication. Communication program is already 58 years old. We are also considered as a center of development from the Commission of Higher Education. We have been recognized. Yes, and we still are. Now, Bachelor of Arts in Communication is actually a generalist program. What do I mean by that? No? It means that we don't have any specialization. However, we also offer a minor, which is an option to minor in digital media production. Okay. In the program, communication, we offer a 3-unit journalism course, which we call Journalism Principles and Practices. In our courses, we offer theory and practice. So it's not just theoretical frameworks that we talk about, we study, but we allow our students to do work, to do actual work. Of course, guided by our core values, which are truth, peace, justice, and integrity of creation. With regard our faculty is a combination of academicians and practitioners. Now, zeroing on our journalism offering, again, it's a combination of academicians and practitioner, meaning journalists practicing in different media organizations. Next, please. Okay. Now, how do we teach journalism to our students? Okay. Number 1, we employ PBL, project-based learning, right? So we this is one of the areas in education that we have adopted, meaning we do lectures, yes, but in the long run, students will have to have their projects. For example, in journalism, they are required to do or to produce what? Newsletters, articles, all right? And of course, sometimes we also conduct talks with journalists. Of course, in the past, before this pandemic, students would go out and interview journalists to find out about their experiences, their challenges, and so on. But this time we have limited encounter with these practitioners, but we see to it that we still do online engagements with these journalists in our different classes, in our classes. Documentary viewing, okay? You know, the young ones now, I would say Generation Z, they are also fond into watching videos. So with IAWRT, right, Philippines, we also have access to some materials with regard, you know, women journalists in the world. What is happening to them, and you know, in the video shown are their experiences. There's also newsroom immersion. We do this before the pandemic. We've done this before the pandemic, but at this point, we are kind of challenged about this, right? Last but not the least, we also have internship. Some of our students go into internship with major media organizations, publications in the Philippines. So samples of which are ABS-CBN, Philippine Press Institute, Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication. We also have Rappler, GMA7, of course, IAWRT. So my point here is, yes, we need to have very strong partnerships with these organizations to provide that experiential learning among our students. Not only our students, but also our faculty who connect with these organizations. Now, to your right there, you would find a picture of our students, wherein we organized a forum with our journalist here. So just to give you an idea there. And of course, another one, that poster up there, it happened yesterday. So it's titled Election 3.0. And this is about our students, not only our students, but also students, communication students in Miriam College, but also communication students all over the country, talking about the women journalists challenges and experiences in the field. And we also talked about, since we are celebrating the month of Women's Month, this was also an opportunity to celebrate also womanhood in the Philippines. All right, so these are just samples. No? Now let's move on to the next, please. All right, so another one that I'd like to share with you in terms of our best practices, since we have these limitations also of getting the practitioners, you know, in the Philippines, we have practitioners in media, and I would say they're also very difficult, you know, to invite as teachers, as resource. But you know, the strong alumni media practitioner engagement, we saw it as a very good strategy in really teaching and art students with regard to the field of communication and media. And here, you know, I would also like to mention that in 2019, the CHED, Commission on Higher Education Technical Panel in Journalism, also encouraged the integration of safety of journalists in the communication and journalism curricula. So that's also a development. All right. However, I was also advised that in some schools, journalism schools in the Philippines, some have adopted offering elective on safety of journalists. So this is a development as well. Next slide, please. All right. So the way forward, so I think what is the way forward or marching forward with regard journalism education. So I would like to mention the following. Number one is research on journalism teachers. I mentioned about the study in 2021 with regard to teachers. No? So talking about what is journalism, what is the focus really. So it's not only disseminating, but what's this? Investigating as well. This time, it was found out that most of the studies that have been done on journalism are focused on the practitioners and the students of journalism. Now, there's a dearth of studies with regard journalism teachers, all right? And also, in the Philippine context, I mentioned earlier that the teachers of journalism in the Philippines does not necessarily or are not necessarily practitioners. So the balance of practice and theory is definitely very important. No? So that's one. No? Another one is the capacity building on technology for journalism teachers. Considering that, with this pandemic, we do online teaching, on online distance learning. So some of the teachers have difficulty in embracing technology. So I would say that, definitely capacity building on using technology and to maximize the multimedia platforms is also very integral. Thirdly, and I think this is the last, a collaboration among faculty members from various disciplines is also important, because journalism education should also highlight the multimedia skills enabling journalists to produce digital content. Journalists need to must have knowledge of different subject matters. Example, law, public health, computer science, supply chain, and so on. So therefore, there's a need for collaboration. Like for example, in our event yesterday, Elect Soon. Elect Soon 3.0, preparing elections, how women journalists cover the news and how they do it, and so on and so forth. So we did not only put up this event amongst us, Department of Communication. We partnered with different programs as well. We invited people from the ethics department, from the theology department, from the international department. So we all came together. So collaboration is key here, right? So next slide, please. All right. So with that, I think that was the last slide. Let me just finally just to give a statement. Yes. What's journalism education in the Philippines? From my observation, yes, it's very challenging to teach journalism because, as mentioned earlier by our previous speakers, journalism, is kind of deadly in the Philippines. But I think the schools, particularly Miriam College, really prepares our students to the realities of journalism practice. So when they get outside our school, they know what to expect. And I think we prepare them for that, for those challenges. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Lynda, Ms. Therese, and Ms. Janess for your presentation. It was a very succinct presentation. All right, so we'll now open the floor for questions and answer the question and answer with our audience here. I believe there's a chat question from Professor Jude Henilo. Sir, would you like to unmute and ask your question, or would you prefer that I read it out loud for you? Okay. All right, so a question is, do you think that the press freedom situation in the Philippines will deteriorate further under another Marcos presidency? So I think we can start with Ms. Janess, because this is her situation earlier when she established where the Philippine journalists are. And then maybe Ms. Therese can answer in terms of how the digital safe haven could potentially help, in terms of if there ever is another deterioration in terms of press freedom. Right. Go ahead, Ms. Janess.
Thank you. I think that as early as now, we are what 2 months away from the national elections. As early as now, we can already boldly say that if the son and namesake of the late dictator will win the next presidential elections, there are already indications that things might go for the worse. As early as now, there are reports by the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines of journalists being kicked out of the campaign trail. They don't want the hard questions. They don't want the right questions. Doesn't have to be hard. It just have to be the right questions, or just to be simply asked of his platforms, of his plans for the Philippines. And even his own stand on ABS-CBN, on the shutdown of ABS-CBN, he even cited supposedly how critical ABS-CBN is of him and his family. And then later on, he would go on and say that the decision or the appropriate steps to be taken should be left to the lawmakers who are crafting the laws on the franchise for networks to be able to freely air on our free TVs. And of course, if we will study the Philippine politics, it's whatever the president would wish he gets through laws and measures that he would say, or he would mark as urgent and necessary. And of course, we don't see him really championing press freedom if we will use, or if we will look into how he is treating journalists as early as now. He has also refused to attend debates that are being organized debates and even interviews being organized by the media, except for one, which of course the media community here in the Philippines think is because the owners are friendly to the president and to a certain degree to him and to his running mate, who is the daughter of our president. So if that's any indication, we're not looking, it's not sending a good signal for all of us here in the Philippines, for the Filipino journalism community here. And if Therese would like to add something.
Yes, I agree with Ms. Janess that the press freedom situation will deteriorate further under another Marcos presidency. And so it is crucial to sustain and enhance safety mechanisms that are already in place for journalists and media workers in the country. And one sustainable mechanism that we're looking at, which falls under one of the flagship areas of the Philippine Plan of Action, safety and protection mechanisms, is a mobile alerts system with media groups, media practitioners, human rights defenders, the Commission on Human Rights, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Philippine National Police, among other stakeholders, that could serve as a quick response mechanism for addressing threats and attacks against journalists. And this quick response mechanism is envisioned to be set up through a chat group, a simple chat group, which will be easily accessible and low cost, and it will require low maintenance. I mentioned earlier that one challenge is sustaining these safety mechanisms because many if not all of our efforts are supported through grants, international grants. So it is crucial to have these community-based, low-cost mechanisms that we can sustain beyond project periods, beyond the periods of grants.
All right, thank you, Ms. Therese. Maybe a follow-up question to that because of the digital safe haven. We know that there are certain parts of the country here in the Philippines that have really low signal or have difficulty in accessing the internet. No? So what would be your protocols for them in order to access your digital safe haven?
Yes, good question, Ms. Chua. Yes, we understand that not everyone has access to the internet, and that is why the Digital Safe House, which was created specifically for women journalists in the Philippines, allows journalists to report on behalf of their colleagues. So even if, for example, a female journalist does not have internet connection, she can reach out to her colleagues via text message, through SMS, or by phone call, and relay details about a threat or attack that she experienced.
All right, thank you. That's great. Sige, maybe to shift the question a bit, no, on whether press freedom will deteriorate from the perspective of the of an educator. Ms. Lynda, I think you were already around during 1986 and you were studying. So was there like, do you see a trend, like a similarity in terms of what was going on at the time and in the current context of press freedom?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mitch. No, so there's really a similarity between the 1986 revolution and even prior the revolution. There were a lot of things going on, which is really problematic. Now we're also seeing that now. However, the arena now is the social media, because during the time there was no social media. We were just face to face. I think Dr. Jude here would know that also. So we would march face to face, and what we did there was really, as a student that time of Miriam College, Miriam, we were also taught by our teachers, or in a way we had this orientation with regard to what's going on in society, how can we respond to this peacefully, and so on and so forth. Now that I'm leading the department also, and of course now leading the department and also working with IAWRT Philippines, it's very crucial that we link journalism, all right, to journalism education. It has to come together. What do I mean by that? We see the practitioners, we see the practice there, and we bring it to the classroom. And sometimes you also bring the students outside of the classroom, no? Before and now online. We bring them, we bring our students to these webinars, to these fora, to this discussion, for them to know what's going on. All right, there are a lot of information. Misinformation was mentioned earlier. That's why we have to have a discourse. We have to create that safe space to discuss what's going on. And of course, we also, teachers, students, no, you have to check your facts all the time. It cannot be, hearsay. Who said it? If it's wrong, we have to correct. All right. So that's my observation of press freedom. Yes, it's really a challenge, no? It's really a challenge for all of us. But I think we have to guard that freedom, because if we're gonna allow it to be in the hands, or we will allow our leadership, to be those people who do not, see the sacredness of press freedom. I think we're gonna be again, we'll have that problem. But I am positive that we will not allow it. The Filipinos will not allow it. And the youth, we have a lot of, this generation, the young men and women, I'm sure they will not allow it. Though if we observe, some of them may be quiet, but I think the education sector must really enlighten our students on what's going on. They have to be part of this, change, and we will not allow that dictatorship to come again in the Philippines. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lynda, for your answer. So there's a follow-up question from Professor Henilo. Is it a good time to be a journalist in the Philippines? Are young people still interested to become journalists in the country? Yeah, I think maybe
Hello,
Ms.
Jude. Yeah, if
Ms.
I may
Janess?
answer that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah,
Ms.
yeah,
Lynda.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
That's a very good question. Actually, I was thinking about it. TBH, as our Generation Z would say, to be honest, Professor Jude. Now, yeah, our students, well, when they think of journalism, oh my God, we might be killed. That is the the idea of our of our students. However, yes, because of the different platforms that are open to them, I think, yeah, the journalism, I mean, pure journalism, that will be very challenging, right? But I still believe that, they will get into broadcast, yeah, journalism, but some of them are already moving to another platform where they could influence people. That's how I see it. They're, I think, more interested in using this new platform, the social media. That's my take on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lynda. And then from, I guess, Mr. Therese, you would want to go next. You unmuted already. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I believe it is a good time to be a journalist in the Philippines despite the challenges. And Sir Jude was also asking if young people are still interested to become journalists. Well, there was a time when I believe Ms. Janess shared this with us earlier. There was a time when journalism students shifted to another course because of the fears, of course, especially after the Maguindanao massacre. But now we see our students inspired to enter the profession precisely because of what is happening now. And one concern that I had when we first introduced safety issues, challenges in journalism to the journalism principles and practices class back in 2019 was that maybe the students might be discouraged to enter the profession. But it's interesting to note that from that batch 2020, which took the course in 2019, which took the journalism course in 2019, 3 of them have pursued journalism. And they said that they were inspired by the role models that they met through the newsroom immersions in Bulatlat, in Rappler, and ABS-CBN. So I think, yes, we are happy to see that our students continue to be inspired to enter the profession. And that is why we need to continue working with the industry professionals so that they will continue to keep that fire burning in them.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Therese. Ms. Janess, would you like to add something?
I agree with Therese. I had hesitations before on how to share issues on journalist safety to students, especially when I am invited to talk about our work in Bulatlat and the attacks that we are facing as an alternative news outfit. But then the more they know about the issue of journalist safety, I think they become more prepared for what is out there, and they are more equipped with their role that they will play in as a future media practitioner, and the changes that they need to do. And they are actually like they can see the red flags um, early into their career as a media practitioner because of the so many discussions on journalist safety, which can hopefully over the years we can help in changing the media landscape now, especially of course for women journalists, because our students um, we have an all women students, and most especially because once they are new into the industry, they are more susceptible, or they are more vulnerable to harassment in workplaces. So because we talk about this now, they can easily see the red flags. They know what to do. If this happens to them, they would know where to go. They know the people that they need to inform, and they should know that this is not supposed to be normal, and that these perpetrators should be called out, if not held to account. So I think that helps. And as also mentioned by Therese, yes, I did. I know a lot, not really a lot, but I do know people from my previous when I was still a fresh graduate. Some of our students there from my school, they shifted to another course. A friend of mine shifted to education. She's now a teacher, etc., because of what happened to the Ampatuan massacre. But I think the Ampatuan massacre really opened a lot of discussions on journalist safety. And up until now, it's something that we are still doing, and we hope to continue doing, because the more that we talked about this, we are able to let people know that these things are not happening in a vacuum. There are perpetrators, and when people know who are the perpetrators, sooner or later they will be held to account, and we should not allow impunity to persist.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Janess and Ms. Therese and Ms. Lynda for your inputs on that. I think maybe to provide some context regarding the Ampatuan or the Maguindanao massacre, especially for our friends here, no. This was a case back in 2000. Was it 2000? Was it 2009 or 2009? Right. It was in 2009, and a politician was going to file his candidacy, right? They're going to file their candidacy, and there were groups of journalists accompanying them, and they were massacred. So that was really a scary time for a lot of journalists and for student journalists. So even back then, there were hesitations already on whether one would continue as a journalist or one would continue as a student journalist. So I'm glad that that didn't deter future students to still be journalists. All right. So, other questions from our peers here, our colleagues? Okay. All right. So
If
I think
if I may just add,
go ahead.
add just very quick, it's the best time to be a journalist is when push comes to shove.
What made you say that, Ms. Janess?
Because it's when things are like so that during these difficult times, it's the best time to be a journalist, because you will be writing a lot of interesting things, you will be learning a lot of things, and you will really be able to see the role that journalism plays in the society. So that sometimes whenever I ask students, why are you in the field of communication, why are you studying journalism, because sometimes they see the glamorous side of journalism, and being on TV, your mom's so proud of you because they can see you on TV reporting from the presidential palace, things like that. And it's really when things are tough, it's really the best time to be a journalist, because you can really see why there is journalism in this first place, why we are so-called truth tellers, why we and our big role in fulfilling the people's right to know, especially in times in the post era in the times of the post era, where even when the truth is right there in front of you, they will still be able to find a way to somehow twist it and make it appear as if you're the one lying, that you're the one who's biased and all that. So I think that it's really the best time to be a journalist when things are tough.
All right, thank you, Ms. Janess. I think you mentioned earlier that it's kind of a challenging time to be a journalist now with the elections and the pandemic going on, and it's the campaign season, and journalists will have to follow the candidates in whatever sortie or whatever meeting that they would go to, especially when they go to far-flung areas. No, what do you have like parang safety precautions for journalists in that regard, like when they travel and follow these presidential candidates or other candidates in their travels?
I think newsrooms here in the Philippines, they do have this safety audit that they do whenever they have to leave for difficult or dangerous coverages. It would depend from one news agency to another. There are news agencies who would have like who would like a phone tracker in their journalists, so they know where their journalists are. So that would depend on the newsrooms, on how far they would go, and they can go with their budget. Especially, but things are more difficult for independent news organizations. That's why a lot of those who are subjected to attacks are those belonging to independent and alternative media outfits, because the safety preparations would there would be shortcuts along the way because of budget constraints. So they would not have that very high tech. I remember a sharing of a journalist who would have like a phone tracker with her. So when they have journalists on the field, they know where they are exactly, especially when they are going to far-flung communities. So good for them. But of course, when we study safety issues, there are also other things that can lessen our vulnerability. Of course, the danger is always out there. You can be in Metro Manila and still face one of the most dangerous coverage. You don't even have to be in a far-flung community to be able to experience that. So there will be some vulnerabilities or some things that can mitigate the safety concerns of a journalist. And of course, we have been pressing media owners to address that and to be able to mitigate all these safety concerns of journalists. So for us, we usually inform our editors of where we are. And if it's a really sensitive coverage, sometimes we are forced to leave our phones behind, or sometimes we are forced to turn them off for a moment. So that it would depend if you want to be traced, or it would depend if you don't want to be traced, especially if you're entering a sensitive conflict area. For example, if you're interviewing someone in conflict zones, etc. So it would depend on the circumstances or the particularities of that coverage.
All right, thank you, Ms. Janess. So it's by my time, it's at least in Philippine time, it's 5:42. No, so I think that would be the last. There are no more questions in the chat box, I think. Right, just making sure. So to wrap everything up, and to summarize what was discussed. So it's great that we are able to establish where Philippine journalists are now, so that we can plan, coordinate, and evaluate their situation in order to help them further along their careers. And then the help in terms of their careers is not just about getting promoted or being assigned good stories, but really ensuring that they are safe and that they can tell us the truth that is still out there. And hopefully with all of these information, we can inform our students to be prepared. Definitely, we cannot cover all bases, but at the very least, we can help them be prepared if they do become journalists in the future. All right. So thank you very much to to our presenters. That has been Ms. Janess Ellao, our journalist for Bulatlat and the treasurer of the International Association of Women in Radio and Television, Ms. Therese Torres, the director of the Research Policy and Advocacy Unit of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Com in Manila, and Ms. Lynda Catindig-Garcia, our department chair of the Department of Communication. Thank you for tuning in our roundtable discussion.
Thank you very much, our panel moderator, Ms. Mae Ann Chua. And of course, thanks to the discussants, Ms. Lynda Catindig-Garcia, Ms. Therese Santiago Torres, and Janess and Ellao. So that was actually our second last session. We will move on to the next one. And of course, I would like to take again this opportunity to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to Miriam College, the Philippines, for supporting us, the Dhaka Media Summit 2022 as an associate partner. We are so happy to have you with us. It's been an honor to be with you and to listening to you this very engaging and very timely discussion on in the spotlight safety and press freedom in the Philippines. So we'll go for a break, and when we come back, we will listen to another important research panel, and that would be the last academic discussion session in this edition of Dhaka Media Summit, entitled Datafication, Digital Audience and Media Trust in Bangladesh, a research panel presented by the host organization, Media Studies of Journalism Department of University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh. The session will be chaired by our head of department, Professor Churilam Henelo. There will be 3 papers to be presented in this panel. One will be presented by Mohammad Aminul Islam, my colleague at the department. And then another one by Dr. Abdul Kabil Khan. And yeah, I am there as well in the presenter list, I see. So yeah, I will be there. So I would like to invite you to be here in 15 minutes. We will start at 4 p.m. Bangladesh time, the last session, the last academic session of Dhaka Media Summit 2022, jointly organized by Media Studies and Journalism Department and International Association for Media and Communication Research, IAWRT Bangladesh. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you.